And greetings. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on BlazeTV, radio, podcast. Steve Deace here with Todd Erzen. Aaron McIntyre going to be joined in a few minutes by our friend and colleague, Jill Savage for the Deace Group. Want to let you know if you're looking for something cool and you've got a Blaze fan in your life, or maybe that Blaze fan is you, and you're looking for something for Christmas for yourself or someone else, get your BlazeTV merch right now, from Truth Be Told hoodies to sweatshirts to our brand new Steve Deace Show logo. You can get 10% off when you go to shopblazemedia.com. 10% off, not just our swag, but every show here at the Blazes swag, all of it. Shopblazemedia.com is where you want to go. Code Steve10 will get you 10% off. 10% off with code Steve10 at shopblazemedia.com. Also had a chance to go and see the new film Bonhoeffer last night. And it's terrific. I am talking best picture level of film. It is the best movie Angel Studios has produced yet. Remember, they did not produce Sound of Freedom. They distributed it. It is phenomenal. I'll have more to say about it on Pop Culture Tuesday next week with a fuller review. But I would highly recommend it. It is okay to take the kids to, provided they're old enough to understand the subject matter. Okay, but it's expertly acted across the board. I mean, it's just a phenomenal film. So if you want to get your tickets right now, go to angel.com/Steve. Opening in theaters nationwide. Pastor, Spy, Assassin, Bonhoeffer, the new film from Angel Studios. Opening nationwide right now. Get your tickets at angel.com/Steve. That's angel.com/Steve. All right, next hour, it'll be your turn with some Feedback Friday. But first, it's time for the Deace Group. Say hello to Jill there, our little friend. As we begin with the way we always begin this thing, with issue 1, Bleep Lord Nefarious Says.
There's obviously a lot of soul searching right now going on within the Democratic Party, and that's a good thing. But what I worry about is that in the course of all that soul searching, some Democrats might reach the wrong sweeping conclusions. And there are a lot of issues that fall into that bucket. But one in particular that stuck out to me is transgender rights. But if that were actually an issue at thousands of schools across the country, it would be worthy of a debate. But there are just incredibly few examples of transgender girls playing in youth sports. And when we see those examples, there isn't evidence that these kids are a threat to safety or fairness.
Hi, this is a series about cutting off your Trumpy family members. Why do you need to be perfect? Why do you need to consider everyone's feelings and make sure everyone is okay in the situation and watch what you say and say it perfectly and say it right, while they get to say whatever? They get to be racist, mean, awful to you, not respect your boundaries. They get to say whatever, do whatever, never consider your feelings. Why do you need to be perfect?
It's disgusting, and everybody, no matter how you feel on this issue, should reject it completely. What are they doing? They're doing this so that Nancy Mace can make a buck and send a text and fundraise off an email. They're not doing this to protect people. They're endangering women. They're endangering girls of all kinds, and everybody should reject it. It's gross. Thank you.
I think that it's really sad and disappointing that she is weaponizing the experiences of survivors to be bigoted and to be discriminatory against someone who's going to be her colleague, whether she likes it or not.
I didn't run on my identity, but my identity was not a secret.
There has been no oppression for the white man in this country. You tell me which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them got dragged all the way across an ocean and told that you are going to go and work. We are going to steal your wives. We are going to rape your wives. That didn't happen. That is oppression.
And someone feels uncomfortable, we can't go to that home. If you have loose dogs and someone on the team is comfortable with dogs and another person is not, we can't go to that home because of safety precautions.
So you feared the Trump houses. The people on FEMA were fearing the Trump houses like they were fearing people with vicious dogs in their backyard.
Exactly.
All right, first question goes to you, Jill. Ladies first, guests first on the show. So you could first crack at what was the most appalling thing you just saw and why?
Well, I'm going to go with the FEMA representative there at the end, just based on personal experience when I went to North Carolina and was able to come on the Deace Group a couple days, the next day, actually, after that. And I had Adam Smith on our show on Blaze News Tonight earlier this week. And the fact is that FEMA is still not in the area in North Carolina. And of course, we know why would we think any different when we have this person coming out and saying, yes, you know, they did tell us it's fine if we just skip over Trump supporters' houses. And then you have the African-American woman who said, oh, what white man is oppressed? Well, you look at the federal government overreach and the way that it has been weaponized on the American people. And you tell me which group of people that has oppressed the most, who has been affected the most by that. I would argue and say it's probably going to be white men in this country. It's the federal government not doing its job. When we go out there and you take taxpayer funding and you don't do what you're supposed to do with it, you don't actually help the people when they need it right now. There's snow on the ground in North Carolina. There are still people that are begging for housing. They're begging for their water to actually work in their homes at this point in time. And the fact is, we're just sending another couple $2 billion over to Ukraine because the federal government just needs to do what it wants to do.
Well said, Todd.
Well, it's amalgamation of Jen Psaki and AOC there. And I'm not even sure if that person after was it a woman or not.
No, that was a dude. Pretty sure.
Okay. Listen, but if you're an actual woman, after this election, and you hate the fact that you lost to the likes of a guy with the past like Donald Trump. And one of the reasons he won, based on exit polling and the issue polling afterwards, one of the top issues was this trans stuff. And other than the actual personnel issues with Trump, the number one thing in the news cycle since the election, the hill that they've decided they're going to die on, is girls in sports. This is... It's a yo for everybody. A laugh track on this after a victory to the victor will not do. There's something about this issue and how they count on it for reshaping reality as we know it. They aren't going to quit. We still have the college volleyball issue. The guy is still playing. We have high school girls recently showing up to another school board meeting begging for this stuff to stop. There is, men, where are you? What are you going to do about it? And if it's the same as it was up to this point, there will be no end to my mockery for how weak and distracted that you are. How in God's name are you going to let this go on? Because they are telling you they don't plan on letting it.
Also well said. How do you share a country with what you just described?
I won't.
How would I do that?
I won't. And I won't. And anybody who has... I am so done. Guys, it's... And even people on our side, the girls in sports thing was a fringe issue. This has never had anything about the fact that I'm just a dad with daughters who's... Guys, it's about reality. It's about the definition of reality, whether they're in sports or in bathrooms or whatever. And if the women don't even understand that they're women, there's women begging to have men in their locker rooms. Nothing that we claim we fought for to get Trump in will matter. If you're too distracted to understand that and just put your life back on cruise control, I have nothing but contempt for you. You're not a citizen. You're a drug addict of some sort. And maybe whatever your comforts are in the cul-de-sac, but you're just as bad, if not worse. You're as much an ingrate, if not worse. I'm tired of y'all.
We're going to have more to say on this in topic number 2. Aaron, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Jen Psaki, especially at the end there. It's increasingly apparent that their post-election arguments are increasingly lazy. They're just playing the greatest hits. trying to make the case that this is not a big deal because there's not a whole lot of there's not a number of examples around this.
Trannies are safe, legal, and rare.
Yeah, safe, legal, and rare.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
Yeah. That's just laziness. And I'm not about to do the whole, if the shoe was on the other foot type of thing. I mean, that's equally as lazy, but it's just indicative that they cannot stop. They won't stop because they cannot stop. And yeah, I want them, yes, double down on the message that it wasn't the economy. Okay? Ignore the exit polling. I've seen a couple of places now that the number one issue for swing voters in the final week, undecided voters, I should say, in the final week of the election was the tranny ad. Just throw that out the window. Just disregard all of that. Double, triple, quadruple down on the race baiting. Double, quadruple, goggle down on the tranny madness. Please do that. But I also want you to know, as much as they do that, and as much as out of touch as they seem right now, they're still going to win if it's not defeated, not soundly defeated, using the power that you have vested in your various leaders after this election to put an end to this. And I hope permanently, not just executive orders, permanently, as much as possible. That means pushing your state legislatures. There were various wins for Republicans in state legislatures across the country. No more Iowa State House. Hey, we're going to ban dudes from women's bathrooms. And then, oh no, we saw the mob of orcs in our chamber, in our atrium. And now we're afraid. None of that. This is not a time for fear. This is a time for pressing on the gas pedal. Absolutely. Because as out of touch as they are, that level of fervor, because they can't stop, because their worldview will not allow them to stop, it still will win if they are not defeated soundly.
Totally agree with that. And I we talked before. Well, first of all, let me say this. The most effective ad, this was Trump's third presidential campaign as the Republican nominee. And looking at the previous two, and including this one, there's been other good ads. The only one I can think of in 3 campaigns that got stuck in the craw, that came up with something that message and inflection point was the ad. Kamala is for they, them. Trump is for you. I think that's hands down the best ad of Trump's 3 presidential runs right there. And I certainly think it's the most effective one as well. But here's the thing we have to remember, and we'll get more into this in the next topic too. They can't stop and won't stop. That means they're going to have to be stopped. Okay? They're going to have to be stopped. We have a window right now with normies where they are offended and they are appalled at this. But the more and more we allow them to normalize it, the more and more normies will do with this what they did with gay marriage and everything else, surrogacy and everything else. Well, I wouldn't do it personally, but who am I to judge? All right, so we've got a window right now to put this into the intellectual ghetto of American politics. But if we don't do that in these next few years, I promise you that poor Colorado baker Jack is going to be back at the Supreme Court over why didn't you bake my tranny cake? We've seen this pattern. They can't stop, won't stop, so they will have to be stopped. It will not organically end. It will have to be stopped by an opposing force.
And part of that will be the process, the courts, going to the board meetings. Yes, but that is only one part of it. It is about you as a dad and a husband living your life in an entirely different way and saying, over my dead body.
Exit question. We are going to break the seal here. This has never been done before in the history of this program. For the first time ever, we have a listener-suggested exit question, courtesy of Stephen Newman from Greenville, Kentucky. And Stephen Newman says, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being a nice Thanksgiving spread on Lindsey Graham's dinner table, and 10 being Lindsey Graham at Thanksgiving spread out on your dinner table.
May it also be the last.
That got an out loud laugh from Jill. Steve, well done, brother.
Yeah.
Rate this week's level of total depravity. Aaron.
10.
Todd.
10.
Jill.
Well done, Stephen. That's a 10. And all you people on buy, sell, or hold, you better stop trying to get rid of Lindsey Graham jokes on this show.
Jill's coming for you.
I see you.
She's coming for you.
See you.
Yes. All right, let's get to issue 2. His name is Tim, and he is a dude.
This is Tim McBride, and this is also Tim McBride. Tim just won Delaware's only congressional seat to become the first dude who pretends to be a woman to be elected to the U.S. Congress. One-time defender of so-called LGBTQ rights, South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace saw the news about McBride and said, hell no, and quickly introduced a measure to ensure men only use men's rooms and women women's rooms on Capitol Hill.
Is this effort in response to Congresswoman McBride's coming to Congress?
Yes, and absolutely, and then some.
House Speaker Mike Johnson, meanwhile, was asked a question about basic biology.
Is freshman-elect Sarah McBride a man or a woman?
Look, I'm not going to get into this. We welcome all new members with open arms. I'm not going to engage in silly debates about this.
He quickly corrected himself.
For anybody who doesn't know my well-established record on this issue, let me be unequivocally clear. A man is a man, and a woman is a woman. And a man cannot become a woman.
And later in the week, Johnson issued a memo stating only men in men's rooms and women in women's rooms for Capitol Hill.
All right. I've got a lot to say about this, so I'm going to say it, and I want to get you guys' response, okay? Because we looked at this issue from their side's perspective, from a can't stop, won't stop perspective. So for issue 2 here, I want to discuss this from a they must be stopped perspective, how we are handling this on our own side. Okay. And to me, I see all the positives and negatives about the last generation of culture warring all playing out. And with how we have handled this story or lack thereof. The initial instinct of the men in leadership to punt. That was Mike Johnson. Let's just say I'm aware that some calls were made to Mr. Johnson and his team. That response is not going to cut it. So my understanding is the speaker was quick to go out there and give the follow-up statement there, Aaron, to make it clear, because he didn't make it clear before. And see, we have a generation of men who did not make it clear before, did not perform as a generation their duties, just didn't. So, I mean, I'm a product of this, born to a biological who didn't bother and still doesn't bother. I got an email from my biological father after the election. He put me on a chain email with his pro-Trump takes on the election, which I largely agreed with, by the way. But it's literally the first communication I've had with him. It's been years. And he just lives across town. And he just put me on a chain email with a bunch of family members I've never even met on that side of the family. This is not an uncommon story for those of us raised by the men of this generation. It's just not an uncommon story. The other story that's not uncommon is my stepdad, who, thought the great Santini was a model of fatherhood and used to say to me in the home, you will not love me, maybe, but you'll always respect me, as if those things are mutually exclusive somehow. They're not. Okay. So, I am the living embodiment of a failure of male leadership in America. Okay. I came out of that myself. So because of that, we end up with women like Nancy Mace thinking that they belong now at the Citadel. And we end up with, they believe now they can invade the male spaces because, listen, it's not like the males are doing a great job with their spaces, right?
They suck at it.
They're not that good at it. So we'll just take those spaces while we're at it. We'll do your job too. Because a lot of you guys just impregnating us. And if we don't abort the kid, you're leaving us with doing your job in the home anyway. So we might as well just take your spaces everywhere else comprehensively in the culture we can find, right? Okay. So that goes on for a generation. And since we've got a full generation of sexual revolution, almost no one is living any form of and I mean almost no one, present company excluded, has some kind of perfect record of living out biblical sexuality and ethics and morals. So pretty much every household is tainted by that, either directly or indirectly, with just a generation or two away. So everybody now thinks they don't have standing to call anything bad or immoral or moral because, we've all sinned in this area. So now anything goes. And so Nancy Mace goes to prayer breakfasts after getting, playing ugly bump with her live-in, inserter she's not married to, and then jokes about it at prayer meetings, and she's all for gay marriage, and then is suddenly shocked and appalled when the fruits of everything that she backed shows up dressed like a transvestite in her own bathroom, right? That's a common story, okay? And so the reaction to this is we've got two options here. One is to just write Nancy Mace off because she is a bit of a clown. Let's just be honest.
For sure.
Okay. She is a bit of a shameless self-promoter. I mean, the woman has completely reinvented herself as a never Trump Kevin McCarthy congressional recruit to I am now basically the right's Ocasio-Cortez. I'm just a living, breathing, walking, tight-dressed quip and a soundbite machine of low-hanging fruit. Like Ocasio-Cortez is basically the construct of what we would have of a left-wing communist woman. That's essentially what Nancy Mace has become for them. Like if MSNBC could draw up a mascot by which to label every Jill Savage on the right with, it'd be Nancy Mace. Let's just be honest about that. But does that also mean she's wrong?
Not on this at all.
No. Does it also mean, by the way, Nancy Mace did more to protect women's bathrooms this week than Mike Johnson did?
Yeah.
Frankly, yeah.
This is a very Trumpian conversation we're having. This is
Correct.
what we've had to do in reconciling yourself to him as well.
Name your Mike. Pence, Johnson didn't do their job for a generation.
Yes.
Okay? Didn't do their job for a generation. The church then didn't produce a lot of men who would replace them that would do their jobs, okay? So grandstanding and clickbaiting is all we have left at this point. It's that or nothing. It's that or nothing. It's that or nothing. I wish we had a movement. We don't. We don't have a movement, guys. We don't. And so Nancy Mace is basically the Rosa Parks of women's bathrooms now, even though she buys into every premise that caused her space to be invaded in the first place. So we're going to have simultaneous conversations here. We have a tendency not to be able to do that. We have a tendency to say, well, since Nancy Mace gives up the premise on everything else and is a bit of a glory hound, therefore she can do no good. She cannot be possibly used in the culture war as a soldier. So I'm just going to take the L and then get self-righteous about it on Twitter, right? That's one option.
Yes.
A lot of people take that one, right?
Yes.
The other option is, a lot of people take this one too. We're just going to continue to give up the premise on everything. Do whatever you want with whoever you want, okay? Just leave out the kids and stay out of my bathroom because those arguments work so well against every other social stigma that is now mainstreamed, right? Okay.
Right.
So we're going to re-rack that playbook, do that all over again, and just do the exact same failures of the last generation where we do not confront the premise of the evil we're up against, only the extensions of it that become absolutely insane, and therefore leave in place everything else that will later undo our arguments against their insanity later on. Fair?
Yes.
And this is essentially what I just described and what took place this week in the halls of Congress and on your screens over this fight over Tim McBride and which bathroom he uses is a summation of the last generation of culture war L. Right here. L. We took it everywhere. Everywhere. The L. So I'm going to proclaim a new strategy. A new one. Here's what we're going to do now. We're not going to give up the premise of our arguments. On the other hand, we're not going to demand that everybody who wants to stand for what we think, for whatever reasons they're doing so, suddenly, if they weren't there at the very first confession of our church, if they weren't there at Plymouth Rock, if they didn't understand everything perfectly, then have a fully developed systematic theology all along, and therefore we're not just as perfect and exact and precise as me, they cannot join. We're going to get rid of that too. We do this thing now where we're going to say to Nancy Mace, hey, if you're really serious about this, thank you. We could use the help. On the other hand, we're going to say, but we also have a charge that we need to have a conversation with you, Nance, because we were told we have to disciple the nations. And you need to understand, sister, you got to understand why you're in this position right now that this insanity has even gotten here. Do you understand this? You probably don't. So I'm going to explain it to you. Some people have done a good job with this. I've seen Liz Wheeler and Allie Stuckey on our team here at the Blaze do a good job of both of the and also here. We have to understand the right needs to be evangelized. Everything has succumbed to postmodernism. The American worldview is broken right and left. And so we just spent the last era trying to get on the cover of Christianity Today by evangelizing a bunch of leftists who, instead of taking our evangelism, actually ended up infiltrating our churches and watering them down and using them against us, right? Mm-hmm. To the point Christianity Today is now blasting Bonhoeffer, a movie that 15 years ago would have been the embodiment of everything that magazine was about. So we tried it that way. We tried, let's evangelize communists. And instead, they evangelized us. So I got an idea. Why don't we try evangelizing the side now whose presuppositions, even if their instincts maybe, even if their presuppositions are wrong, but their instincts are, at least there's an outrage button trigger there somewhere. There's an hell no trigger there somewhere. You see what I'm saying? Why don't we try evangelizing them now? So that's my proposition. My proposition is we don't refuse anybody who wants to run to the battle in our favor, regardless of whatever they were doing the day before they run to the battle. Mercy triumphs over judgment. However, we're also going to spend some time discipling those people so they understand how it was possible we ended up with this kind of insanity in the halls of Congress in the first place. We're not going to do the either or of the last generation, and both of those things resoundingly failed and basically lost America, right?
Yes.
So this time, I proclaim, with whatever limited scope of authority and influence I have, we're going to do the and also. We're going to follow Jesus. Whoever's not against us is for us. Is Nancy Mace against us right now?
Nope.
No.
So therefore, she's what?
For us.
For us. Okay. Now, are we going to change what we believe, however, for Nancy Mace at the exact same time? Nope. Does Nancy Mace need to be taught why she's in the very precarious position where she's not even safe as a female member of Congress in her own bathroom right now? Does she need to be shown why that's the case? And so guess what we're going to do? We're going to do this new thing where we're going to actually do what we were told by our Lord. That's my great strategy. That's my keen insight. That's the wisest projection and observation of stratagem I have for you today is we're going to do what the only undefeated being in the universe told us to do. Don't turn people away when they want to do the right thing. Don't turn them away because they weren't doing the right thing 10 minutes ago. Welcome them in. At the same time, they need to understand why what they were doing before and thinking before was the wrong thing. We're going to do them both. That's my big idea. Thoughts?
Yes.
Jill, you're the guest. Oh, sorry.
This is the... Go ahead, Jill.
Well, I was just going to say, listen, I am all for what Steve is putting out there. I would hope that those in D.C. would listen to that. But you know what? We are the low-T GOP, and they are not going to listen to lofty goals. You know what they will listen to? Riley Gaines is a rising star in the Republican Party. You want to know why? Because she's willing to go out there and say that men are men and women are women. Do you want your star power to rise like Riley Gaines? Go ahead. Get on board. This is what you need to do. You need to be able to go out there and in the first press conference, not the second or third or fourth, say that men are men and women are women. Yes, I hope that they find Jesus. Yes, I hope that they do that. But I don't think that that's where these people are going to start. I think that we have to start way lower than that. And you know what? If we have to appeal to their star power in themselves first, and build up to that, then maybe that's what we're going to do over the holidays and going into 2025.
The aversion, the instinctual aversion to a fight displayed in that first clip from Mike Johnson is why we're here. And it's not a Mike Johnson thing. Yes, it is a Mike Johnson thing. But that's like every Christian man, like 90%, 95% of Christian men who go to church, instinctual aversion to conflict. Mm-hmm. No. Can't say the obvious truth here because, I don't know, MSNBC might write something really mean about me tonight. That is killing us. I wish we had an army full of Dusty Deavers in Washington, D.C. right now. I wish we did. But you fight with the army you have, not the one you wish you had. And right now, Nancy Mace is fighting the fight. She's got a lot to learn. She's got a lot to answer for. Her past is checkered as heck. Nobody likes her. Heck, I don't like her, but she's not against me right now. And so, go. Keep going.
And others, by the way, who think they're better at this than her, then go and do likewise.
Yes.
They could fight in place of her, right? No one's stopping you for joining her or outdoing her. I don't know. Maybe get off your keyboard and go fight. So there's been a lot of talk about reigniting in the Trump era our manufacturing base. It looked like we were on the way to doing that, and then COVID comes and the globalists win, and then we weren't, right? And you found out maybe, like I did, during COVID that 80% of our antibiotics every year got imported from China. Almost all the PPE that they told us we needed was all in China, the place where they made the virus. So, yeah. Now, here's the thing you also need to know. Correcting this is not going to be a painless process, right? We just can't do a Thanos snap and our manufacturing base from the 60s and 70s is just suddenly conjured. It's going to take years to rebuild that. One of the things that President Trump has talked about in terms of fighting that battle and equalizing the playing field is with tariffs. The other side could fight back against that, though, too, and say, hey, well, I guess we'll threaten your supply chains. So where am I going with this? This is why we have partners on the show like Jace Medical for these kinds of moments, right? Remember, we were immersed in quite the trade war with China right before COVID hit, which is probably why they gave us COVID. I'm sorry, is this on? I didn't say that. That was a thought bubble. Nobody heard that, correct?
How much do you love that YouTube channel number 2? That's the answer to your question.
Oh,
that was good, Todd.
That was great. That was great. Come on, note to self, come up with a new name for the next YouTube channel later today. Yes. All right, but that's why we have clients and partners like Jace Medical, because they can fill in those gaps. They can give you the peace of mind to know, hey, whether it's venerable medications like amoxicillin and doxycycline, which thankfully I had some on hand, courtesy of Jace, to go after my far less serious MRSA infection versus version 2.0 a month ago, or it's more of you can expand it too. If you've got meds that you need, chances are they have that customizable option to extend and expand your Jace case as well, just to make sure you've got peace of mind to know you've got the meds you need when you need them the most. All right, just go to jace.com and use the promo code DACE at the checkout for the discount and get your Jace case today, especially winter is coming, right, for much of the country. Jace.com and use the code DACE at checkout for a discount on your order. Jace.com, code DACE at checkout for the discount. All right, let's welcome Jill back in here as we march on with our weekly look at the week that was. Let's get to issue 3. Happy Christmas! The risk of nuclear war is not over.
This week, the Biden administration greenlit the use of longer-range U.S.-made weapons, missiles supplied to Ukraine to be used to hit targets within Russia. We're told Ukraine used some of those weapons this week, targeting a military installation in far southwestern Russia to no effect. We're also told Putin signed a measure this week allowing him to use his nuclear arsenal in a wider capacity. He's now supposedly allowed to use his nukes against non-nuclear capable countries who are supported by nuclear powers. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says he doesn't see Russia using nukes anytime soon.
We've known for several weeks that they were revamping their policy on use of nuclear weapons. As I look at what they're doing, and we watch their strategic forces very carefully, I don't see a change in their strategic force posture. And so we'll continue to remain vigilant in this regard. But at this point, no, I don't see an indication that there's an imminent intent to use nuclear weapons.
All right, Jill, first question back to you. How serious do you think is the risk that the Ukraine war could go nuclear before Trump takes office?
Well, I would hope that we would have some adults in the room and that we would start focusing
so very
on
serious.
de-escalation.
Very serious, you think it is. Okay, all right.
In that way,
you
yes,
lost me at adults in the
serious,
room.
But
yes.
Yes, unfortunately. Jason Buttrill put out on X yesterday that he was talking with a U.S. official, and he said Russia likely only possesses a handful of these experimental missiles that they fired back at Ukraine. And I thought that the actual missile itself is interesting because Eric Prince put this out. He said, all right, folks, imagine driving from New York to D.C. It takes 4 hours. This missile could take 2 minutes to get there. It's a Mach 9, meaning it travels at 9 times the speed of sound. But it's not just the speed. He says it's the force. Imagine a freight train running with a full load of cargo going through the sky. Russia fired one of these missiles at Ukraine today. It's super fast, packs a powerful punch from a long distance, but it's scary because it's like trying to stop a bullet with your bare hand. And that's the power of this missile, the Mach 9 that they use, incredibly fast. And that's before delivering it with nuclear warheads. So when you hear that from a guy like Eric Prince saying, hey guys, this is a serious weapon that Russia is now experimenting with, before you even get to, oh, they've changed their policies, this is what's happening, these are the nuclear things that Russia is now talking about. We better start praying that this is not going to be escalating throughout the next month or two. Now, what I do hope and pray is that Donald Trump will be on the phone with these people. I know he's not in power right now, but guess what? Who is right now, right? Joe Biden was off in the Amazon when this whole thing started, just walking around Peru like Mr. Magoo. So I look at this and say, yes, this is going to be a serious threat, but I do know that Donald Trump has peace through strength. He has already demonstrated that he will not start new wars. That's the only thing that we have going for us right now.
Todd, what are the chances that, because Zelensky has also talked about the fact the war needs to come to an end, which is why I'll now pronounce his name correctly for the first time. And so what are the odds that this is a form of high-stakes poker on both sides, that they anticipate with Trump coming in, there will be a massive monumental effort mounted to end this as fast as possible? And so both sides, whether it's giving long-range missiles to Ukraine, but when you looked at the missiles we sent, are they really at the good stuff that we would typically send to an ally like Israel, for example? Yes, it's this Mach 9 missile, which packs a wallop on its own, but it's not nuclear armed. What are the odds this is now a high-stakes game of poker where both sides are trying to exert their leverage before Trump forces them to the bargaining table here in January? What are the odds that that's what's taking place here?
The odds are very high, if not total. Notwithstanding the main major players, i.e. the actual presidents and their generals, have all their ducks in a row in terms of control of their weaponry. I mean, I can't speak to if there's rogue actors or there's coups or things like that, but I don't believe there's... You think Zelensky, the gate answer is it really wants a nuclear war out of this whole thing? How he got his job in the first place, what his job was to do? I don't believe Putin. Putin got into this for a lot of different reasons, restoring some glory to old Russia on his watch. I don't think he wants nuclear war for a minute. Again, we have no idea what this reverse Wakanda thing is completely about. It's all a scam. It's not a real war. The tail is absolutely wagging the dog. So I think under no circumstances, unless some kind of coup is pulled off, the main players as we know them there's no reality at all to a nuclear war, in fact.
All right. Aaron, what do you think?
Am I being too hard on Defense Secretary Lloyd? Talking about the prospect of nuclear war, he's like,
I don't think so. Probably not.
Your guess is as good as mine. Probably not. Am I being too hard on him? That was not a reassuring answer, necessarily. Having said that, though, it is probably a high-stakes poker game. There's probably going to be some deal struck that, yes, you recognize Crimea is a part of Russia now, maybe even one of the other, I can't remember the name of the province or region that Russia has almost overtaken, and we're going to call this good for now. For now, that's probably what's going on here, but they do, I think both sides kind of have their hands tied, because on the one side, I don't think of all of the times that we've said we have no idea what the literal hell is going on in this conflict, it still boggles the mind that a power like Russia, yes, the reputation for not having the best technology, the most advanced fighting force, yes, they do have that reputation, but it boggles the mind that over 1,000 days later, they still are entrenched in basically what seems like a stalemate right now. It still boggles the mind. I'm trying to say that I don't think this went the way that they necessarily hoped that it would go from their side. Again, that's just my intuition based on flimsy data from what we've seen. So I don't think they want this to go on. Zelensky has already said, as you just mentioned there, that this needs to be concluded. And by the way, we've got somebody coming into the White House who's probably not going to continue to send hundreds of billions of dollars worth of aid to Ukraine. So let's get this over with. Let's make a deal. And by spring or summer of next year, we're not even going to be talking about this anymore.
Okay. Well, that was my prediction last week. I think this will be completely at an end by Easter of next year. Let's get to the exit question. What would you be willing to fight a nuclear war over, Todd?
The same things as Harry Truman.
So essentially, civilizational existence, basically.
Yeah, I've got no problem with his rationale on that front. I'll just go with the guy who actually used it. And by the way, when we talk about consequences on the show to really change people's minds, I'm not saying Japan is a paradise, but how it's been post being bombed and pre being bombed right now, honestly, all things being equal, would you feel more comfortable living in Tokyo or San Francisco? I don't even think twice about it. I'd be more comfortable living in Tokyo.
That's a statement.
Well,
Aaron.
it's not without merit either.
I know.
Yeah.
Sadly.
I think given the context of Japan and the strong, I didn't say good, but the strong culture and the prospect of island hopping after island hopping, and you're never, ever going to just have a conventional surrender without teaching them, like taking a switch and spanking them. You know, if we faced another threat like that or another prospect like that, that's when it would be necessary. So I agree with Todd.
So the stakes have to be existential, is
yes.
what both of you are saying. That it's either we do this so they don't exist, because if we don't, they're going to make sure we don't. It has to be to that degree? Okay. What about you, Jill?
I like Todd's answer. You know, civilization is a very good reason. And then, you know, green bean casserole on a table for Thanksgiving. Get that out of here. That crap doesn't belong. And if we have to go full Putin on it and just say, you know what, if you're gonna bring that in here, we're just gonna escalate it.
All right.
That's it.
That's 2 strikes. Your lust for Lindsey Graham and anti-green bean casserole.
See, it's 3 strikes.
Tread carefully.
It's 3 strikes because she texted me earlier today a picture of the fact all the Christmas decorations are up down in Dallas at the Blaze. This is my sister from another mister right here. All right.
Yeah.
She's celebrating that the Christmas decorations are already up at work.
The tunes have already started,
yes,
Steve.
She is clamoring for more Lindsey Graham blasts. All right, and she hates green bean casserole. There's got to be
if it was the
somewhere
Todd
DNA
Erzen
strand
show,
we share in a family lineage we're not aware of. There has to be.
Yeah, maybe it would be different if it was the Todd Erzen show, but it's the Steve Day show. So, and I totally agree with it.
Preach. All right, let's get to, speaking of Christmas, for our kicker topic, because somebody is going to lead off, one of the lead-offs for Feedback Friday next hour is a note where a guy is going to do eliminations of Christmas songs. So I thought it would be fun, is if we headed him off at the past. If you could get rid of any Christmas song, or a song associated with Christmas, even if it's not about Christmas, like the I Believe in Father Christmas atheist lullaby, it would be such a song. If you could get rid of any song associated with this time of year, which one would it be and why? Aaron.
So I know a couple of 3 questions ago, I said that Dominic the Donkey really annoyed me.
Horrible song.
But Ben loves the song, so I can't get rid of that because I got to take one on the team for my son.
That's an excuse. Yeah.
Last Christmas by Wham. Nobody needs that song.
See, what ruined it for me is when we went through the Christmas wars in the early 2000s, and they got rid of actually Christmas songs, and they just played Wham's Last Christmas on loop in every department store. Just kind of became a symbol of that political correctness to me, and just ruined the song for me from there. What about you, Todd?
Was that what I'm remembering, Aaron? Because I thought we asked this question. I said any Christmas song before Thanksgiving, and I'm sticking by my answer.
Admire the consistency. What about you, Jill?
I talked about this with our social media coordinator, Ashton DeGroot. She's also my best friend here. And I was just throwing out there, I want a hippopotamus for Christmas.
Oh, yes.
Nobody needs that song.
Yeah, that one's
I
awful.
said it to the wrong person,
Yes.
though, because she's obsessed. Have you heard of this hippopotamus Mudang? Are you aware? Has this infiltrated your circles? She's obsessed with this hippopotamus. And she's like, but I do want a hippopotamus for Christmas. And I was like, you know what? No, cut it. Cut the song.
Completely agree. All right, let's get to our predictions. Todd, I'll start with you.
Well, I know a lot about this issue because Steve spammed my timeline with it this morning. But Connor Stallions next year is going to be rehired to the staff of the Michigan Wolverines as part of the condition of sports bro slut money spender Dave Portnoy buying all the players. He's not going to buy any more players unless they hire Connor Stallions. The guy that Michigan fired for cheating, and then they sent down to steal a player from another college. So they're going to hire him again and put on staff. Because,
just for the record,
because nothing matters.
Since I was heavily involved in that story at the time, I can confirm Connor actually resigned, just for the record. All right. Like a good soldier, fell on his sword and resigned.
Or he was going to get fired.
Okay. So
he was going to get fired because he cheated.
And I can also tell you, because I've got a bit of it in here, that I asked him, I told him over the weekend, I said, you need to make yourself something more than a man. And he said, what? I said, a legend. And 3 days later, Bryce Underwood commits. That's all I'm saying. Legendary. Absolutely freaking legend. Go ahead, Aaron.
My prediction is Iowa football will become the latest, most surprising, and most disappointing cautionary tale about the new age of college football for multiple reasons that I think will reveal themselves in the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Jill, what about you?
That's so disheartening.
I'm sorry.
61 years ago in the city of Dallas, JFK was assassinated. Now Trump ran on promises made, promises kept. He's already told us he's going to release the documents. Donald, we're waiting. If he's actually going to follow through, then this is it. This is the time. I'm going to say he is going to do it.
I think he's going to do it too. I do. My prediction, I've not made a sports one for a while. Okay. And frankly, my political predictions on the show here have gone so well the last few weeks that I just feel like I should Costanza and tap out while I'm ahead. All right. So the loss of its standout center, Seth McLaughlin, I think further exposes the biggest weakness that Ohio State has on its offensive line. And I think the team with the highest payroll in college football history, I think it's probably going to cost them the national championship. That's what I think. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm wearing a Michigan logo
Never does.
Pullover today. Just an objective take.
Lose your center. Systemic weakness. None shall pass.
That's right.
Cheating, stealing players, buying them. Oh, it's Nirvana.
Yes. Ohio State tried to do that too this year, and they were the Blackbeard Pirates of the portal. And it's a shame. They're going to have a very good season, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get them the natty like we won a year ago. That's
your
my
mic just shorted out, Todd, because you yelled into it too loud.
Jill, always good to see you. All right, enjoy those Christmas decorations down there. Appreciate it.
That's right. Gonna go start "Oh Holy Night" by Mariah Carey right after this.
See,
enjoy.
We have to be related. We have to be.
Yeah,
all right,
it's the all-time best.
It's up there pretty high. Feedback Friday's next. Stay tuned.
Thanks, Jill. Have a great weekend.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Is it working? There it is.
Yeah, it's
That's
back.
when you know you're screaming truth. When you short
the
out
mic
your
shorts
mic.
up.
Damn right.
All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Aaron McIntyre and Todd and I'm Steve Deace. Let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox, steve at stevedeace.com, DEACE. Like us on Facebook, me, and Gab. You can also follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Please check out our new YouTube page, which after last hour I will probably have to replace. At Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, as we're trying to grow that channel after all the censorship I faced with the first one. At Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you enjoy the podcast, thank you. Please let the world know by hitting us up with a 5-star review, and we appreciate all of you who have done that. Hit subscribe, or if you're on iTunes, follow to make sure that every time we do a new episode, it shows up in your feed every single time. And this part of the show brought to you by our friends at Relief Factor. I've got a gift for Christmas for you, and it's only $20. 70% odds that chronic pain you're struggling with will go away. Why not see? If you don't see a difference in 3 weeks or less, it'll only cost you $20 to find out. With the 3-week quick start from Relief Factor, it's the drug-free supplement created by physicians who can prescribe drugs, but they got tired of masking the pain with drugs that can sometimes also cause side effects. So they thought, hey, what if we could go after the inflammation that's the cause of this in the first place? And that something is Relief Factor. Not saying it's going to be a guarantee, but over the years, over 1 million people have tried the product with the 3-week quick start. 70% of them saw such good results. They stuck with the product long term. So why don't you see if you don't see the same for just $20 at relieffactor.com. Again, head over to relieffactor.com. All right, you guys ready for some Feedback Friday?
You bet.
Yes.
Let's start with Dana Henry. I started listening to your show during COVID. I've appreciated how you guys stand up for what you believe and encourage others to get involved rather than being spectators. I live in a small conservative town in the liberal state of Oregon. And partly due to you and Todd's promptings to you guys and your listeners, I decided to run for city council as a write-in, and I won. My term will start in January. There are now 5 out of 6 on the city council who are believers, in addition to the mayor. While there are currently no issues in the town, there are a few hot topics that are the jurisdiction of city councilors. So I see it as a gatekeeper position to try to keep those things away from where we are and where we live. I'm also a nurse for nearly 20 years, and at some point I'm interested in participating in health-related policy at the state level as well. But for now, I'm starting with my hometown. So thanks for your encouragement and advocacy. That is from Dana Henry.
Awesome.
Well done, good and faithful servant. That is the fulfillment of our theme this year, Dominion. What is it that you have authority over, and you have authority and influence with? And what is, another way of saying that is, what is your sphere of influence? And go influence it. So, Dana, thank you. I mean, this and hearing last week at Patriot Academy from so many of you, how much our show has impacted your faith. This is it right here. I mean, this is the alpha and omega of why we do what we do. On the faith side, we're all going to be dead a lot longer than we were ever alive. And then number 2, what do we actually do, though, with the time while we're alive? With our faith, what do we do with it? What's our legacy? And so whether it's this note from Dana and so many of you at Patriot Academy down in Texas last weekend, great encouragement to me. Thank you very much. We appreciate you guys letting us know that we have been used by the King to help his soldiers get into the battle. So thank you.
This is a woman. I mean, it's named Dana, but I
could probably, because it's a nurse, but there's male nurses too. But I think it's a woman. Yeah.
Well, God bless you, but guys, this dovetails perfectly. It just came to my memory. I didn't plan on bringing it up, but it fits perfectly. Yesterday, I mean, I always the local sports bros. They're on the radio when I put them on the radio when I get in the car, see what's going on before I move on to something else, and I almost always move on to something else. But they were talking about how they're so glad the election's done. They're proudly, loudly, all agreeing. So glad the election's done. I hate having to listen to it because I don't care about it. They said they didn't even know who the vice presidential candidate was for either one a week before. They said, and they're proud of it. They're like, that'll never work. Dana, and everyone like you, male or female, look yourself in the mirror. And if there's any part of your life that resembled the ridiculousness of the story I just told you, and they are legion, you've got to kill it. Go into what's the Star Wars movie that I can't stand, but kill the past. That it's not good enough anymore. You're either a citizen or you're not. The amount of liberties should be stripped from those damn fools on the radio, and I mean it. This is we used to have, in order to vote, own property, things like that. These people their lives are wasted. We need to do better. Your writing that letter reminds everybody in yet another small way of what's possible if only we get up and understand that there's duties to being a citizen of this country. More duties than any place else, quite frankly, and we forsake them all of the time.
Dana, that was incredibly encouraging nonetheless, and appreciate your reaching out and telling us. And if you can do that in very blue Oregon, what's stopping anybody listening in South Dakota or Nebraska or in Arkansas or in Alabama? Just name the red state. What's stopping you from doing that there in your neck of the woods? What's stopping you?
Amen. Amen. All right. I teased this last hour. Here we go. Okay. This is from Brandon. Brandon says, here's 10 songs that must leave our Christmas airwaves at the speed of Lindsey Graham to the words of Making the Yuletide Gay. That's good. Approved?
Okay. Sure.
I like it. All right. Number 1, Dominic the Donkey.
Thanks.
Now,
I mean,
you get a special dispensation if the toddler son likes it. Okay, I think we all agree, right? We all agree. Like, it's a little bit like when my girls were little, I did every tea party. I did them all. Like, if I called you and invited you to my house for a tea party, that would be bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But in the context of being a girl dad with little girls, then it's laudable, right?
Sure.
Right. So Aaron is granted an exemption here.
Is this a
because of
new
his
song?
Beloved son.
no, it's pretty old.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it that I know of.
I wasn't either.
And don't make yourself familiar with it. It's legit dreadful. It is.
Okay.
Do you remember the
It will haunt your dreams.
Do you remember, like me, did you like memorize like the songs and like the albums that would get advertised during Saturday morning cartoons when we were kids?
No.
The kid songs. John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, his name is my name too, and Bingo. You remember those kids?
Yeah.
Right? This song's worse than all of those. It's worse than them. It's worse than them all. All right, number 2. Agree on this one as well. No, it's not the one I thought it was, so I don't agree on this one. Baby, It's Cold Outside. Brandon says the only redeeming value here is it should drive me is that it drives the Me Tooers nuts.
Well, that's enough.
Yep.
I mean,
Todd's like, sold.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. All right.
I mean,
I will tell you that the Dean Martin version I love.
It's utterly charming. Yeah. And we were being lectured at. There's a comedian who has a bit at the exact same time we were being lectured at how that was all date rapey.
Yeah.
Yeah. That ridiculous garbage was going on.
Okay.
No.
All right. So
good song.
We agree on one. Aaron gets the special parental dispensation exemption, which he has rightfully earned. Number 2, we do not agree with Brandon on. All right. Number 3, I'm going to definitely agree with Brandon on. Santa Baby. And he says, especially the Madonna version. There's an Eartha Kitt version. There's a Snoop Dogg version. They all suck. I hate them all. Hate them all. Hate them all. It's an automatic click anytime it comes on any of the Christmas stations. Automatic click. I buy. Yes. I'm in.
So I like where you're, but this is why we keep Christmas tastefully within the proper confines. Once you start coloring outside the line, Steve, this is what you get. I'm trying to make Christmas classy again by keeping it within the confines.
People say that about you a lot, Todd, that you're trying to keep it classy. People say that about you a lot.
If you start putting Christmas in November, you're always going to get bad Christmas songs. These things are tied to each other.
Because they run out of songs, so they have to play the bad ones. Is that what you're saying?
It's gonna. There's mission creep.
There's mission creep.
Wow.
Oh my gosh! Now you sound like the Puritans. They agree. Christmas was mission creep. They agreed with that. Yes. All right.
Yeah, completely. Okay. They're the pendulum the other way.
Yes. All right, number 4. I'm sorry, Aaron. Do you have a verdict on Santa Baby? Eject.
A narrow eject.
Narrow eject. I'm a solid eject. All the ejects. Number 4. I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus. Brandon says there's zero reason kids should be subjected to this song anywhere. It's not cute. It's not funny. It's unnecessary. I don't have a problem with the song.
I'd get rid of it too.
You would?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't feel strong. I'm okay if I never hear it again, but I don't have the visceral reaction to it like Santa Baby.
As long as you hear it twice every season, okay, that's fine.
Like the Jackson 5 version, I like a lot.
It doesn't need to be in your Power A category if you're programming in a radio station.
Okay.
Or B or C.
All right. So I don't really have a strong position on this, so...
It just... Every time you play one of these dreadful songs, you're not playing a very, very good song. That's how you got to think about it.
Well, that's a good point, too. There's an opportunity cost here. I agree. All right, number 5, John Lennon's Merry Christmas or Happy Christmas, War is Over.
Goodbye.
The song makes me puke, Brandon says. Nothing like atheist anthems posed in the spirit of the holiday to warm us all up inside.
Yep. Gone.
Totally agree. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with him on this one.
I don't hate it as much as the other ones, but it's a missed opportunity to play something better.
A few of my favorite things at number 6, other than being a Christmas part of a musical, I have no idea what the song has to do with Christmas, and it sounds utterly depressing.
What song?
What song?
These are a few of my favorite things, that song.
Yeah, that's Sound of Music.
Yeah, right, exactly. I knew that. I just never seen Sound of Music, but I knew it was in Sound of Music. So he thinks that a few of my favorite things has got to go.
Like, is that a new thing, associating that song with Christmas? Because when I was growing up, it was not associated with Christmas.
What happened is in the 90s, Tony Bennett put out a Christmas album. And he put it on his Christmas album. And so ever since then, it's been played a ton at Christmas time. Yeah.
I will kick that out as a Christmas song, not as a song. That's fine.
I'm in opposition in number 7. We Need a Little Christmas, the Angela Lansbury edition. Who the hell enjoys this? I love this song.
We need a little Christmas.
Yeah,
This very minute.
Yeah, I love the song.
Roll Out the Barrels.
Yeah, the Johnny Mathis or Johnny.
Oh, Johnny. Yeah.
That version is tremendous, by the way. Okay.
Yeah. I'll keep it. Yeah.
So I'm in complete opposition on this. If I get one exemption, I'm just like Aaron did with Dominic the Donkey on behalf of Ben. Of seeing what else is on the list, I'm choosing that one. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. It's Johnny Mathis, right?
Yeah. Johnny Mathis. Yeah.
I'm good with keeping it.
Okay. Number 8, although maybe I should have used my exemption for this one because I completely disagree on this too. He has Frosty the Snowman by Jimmy Durante. This version with a little kid involved and the storytelling is pure cringe. That's pure Americana, baby. You should be deported for that. I mean, that's a deportable offense in my view, is hating Frosty the Snowman by Jimmy Durante. I mean, do you even America, bro? What are you doing here? I mean, that's America. You can't step to Frosty the Snowman. I mean, what is this? Don't you even consider it, Erzin?
Yeah,
don't you even consider this?
I'm just neutral on that. I don't.
How can you be neutral on Frosty the Snowman?
Have you met me?
I mean, does it get any better than right through the traffic stop? There's some great lyrics there. And he only paused a moment when he heard them holler stop. That's as good as it gets right there. Freaking love that song. And I love the Rankin Bass special. The second one with Andy Griffith as the narrator, where Frosty finds a wife, is even better. One of the rare moments where the sequel is better than the original. All right, so when Frosty finds a wife and Andy Griffith is the narrator, that one's even better.
Okay, that's it. I'm kicking the song off because Steve.
And there's a great song at the end that where Andy Griffith goes through all the seasons, right? You know, I mean, I love that one. That's really good too.
Yeah. Out.
Keeping Frosty.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you. One of you will be getting a Christmas bonus, and the other one is named Todd Erzin. All right, number 9. Silent Night by Stevie Nicks. I did not know this existed. Brandon writes...
I already hate it.
I otherwise enjoy her voice, but she butchered this, and I think the only reason people say they like it is because it's her. All I hear are goats or sheep rambling this version whenever it comes on.
Okay. I don't know that I've ever heard...
Never heard this.
And it's... Here's the thing about Silent Night. Or any classic like that. If you... I like the courage of trying to remake it, but you best not miss. Mm-hmm. Like, if you do this, not having heard, like, this is how I felt. But I had one of the greatest musical experiences of my life when a band I had never heard of, Disturbed, I'm in the radio, and all of a sudden they said they were going to sing The Sound of Silence by Silent Garfunkel. I was like, this is going to be a train wreck, and it was one of the amazing things I've ever heard. So I don't mind if you're like, hey man, I think I've got this one, but if you don't, you don't. So I'm going to have to
Totally
sell.
fair. Totally fair.
There's about 500 other versions of Silent Night that you can get to, including one that we even use during the podcast that we'll start using for the podcast bumper music after Thanksgiving.
And they're
That's
like
really
perfection.
good.
So like you can't miss.
Number 10 is a song I did not know existed. Christmas in San Francisco. Why? I can't think of a more or less desirable place to spend our Lord's birthday. I mean, is it... Who performs Christmas in San Francisco? The Village People? I mean, have you ever... what is this?
Never. It's funny. I just thought of poop maps instantly.
I was just going to say, I mean, what, you hobos dressed up in red and green, dropping brown. I mean, what the heck is Christmas in San Francisco? What is that?
No idea.
I mean, now you want to talk about making the Yuletide gay. That would be Christmas in San Francisco. Yes. Okay. So you guys had not heard of this song either?
No.
All right. Overall, give Brandon's list a grade. What would you grade it?
B-.
Fair.
Well, I'd just give it a C because it's pretty low-hanging fruit. Like, I didn't...
There is a not insignificant chance, though, that this could be an A+ for one reason. And the reason is that it is November 22nd, and for the last 15 minutes, Todd has been forced to talk about Christmas music.
You got it.
So
well
if
done.
That's the intent,
yep.
A+.
Yep. Well done.
I like Christmas music.
All right. Since we have no obvious way to segue to the next note we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk instead to kind of break it up here about our friends over at Patriot Mobile. If you're tired of giving your money directly to companies who hate you, unfortunately, there's just no way to avoid doing that comprehensively in our culture today, but there are areas specifically where you can, and one of them is with our mobile phones. One device we all need nowadays in order to thrive in modern society. You can go with Patriot Mobile instead, and not just get a company that shares your value system. And I've seen firsthand this year, 3 different conferences I've spoken at, they have sponsored all 3. Okay, so when they say they reinvest your profits back into being prophetic, they're telling you the truth. But then number 2, it's a great product in and of itself. Our family made the switch a few years ago. We have not looked back. They've got multiple networks within their main hub, and at any time you want to switch to those networks, you can for free. They've got an outstanding U.S.-based customer service team that are always on call and able to help you. It's a great product. If you want to start today, use my promo code STEVE to get you started with a free month of service at patriotmobile.com/Steve. All right, you can keep your phone. Upgrade your phone if you want to do that. Keep your number. Switch out your number if you want to do that. They'll customize it as best they can for you. PatriotMobile.com/Steve. Use the offer code Steve to get started with a free month of service at PatriotMobile.com/Steve. All right, this is from Andrew Schnick, who writes, I'm one of the evangelicals that set out this election, but I am also glad Trump won. I look forward to this nation having a better economy and strong border. God has blessed us with a great victory, so much so now that we control all 3 branches of government. What is preventing us over the next 2 years from outlawing all abortions without exceptions federally? I believe God gave us this opportunity to criminalize all infanticide in our nation, and maybe we will incur God's punishment if we do nothing. If we fail to outlaw abortion federally in the next 2 years, I will be done voting until we get serious about the right to life, and will tell my evangelical conservative friends that it is clear to me that the Republican Party has become a godless populist party focused on fiscal issues, and it will not do more good for the unborn if we were to sit out elections until we can hold Republicans' feet to the fire. You guys have any thoughts for Andrew?
Andrew, in charity, about the specifics of fighting this particular issue, I have no particular quarrel, but like I honestly don't I understand being a Christian and deciding not to vote for Donald Trump. Can anybody help me? I'm asking. I don't even understand what it means that you didn't vote for him, but you're happy he won. Because to me, that's the kind of thinking that will cause none of the things you aspire to happening. It's too smart by half. Like, why would you not vote for him if you want him to win? If you think it's a good thing for him to win. It doesn't mean you think he's a prophet, a Christian. This is like, and I'm asking we need to square this. How do you square this circle, guys? Can you help me? Because that's what I'm flummoxed by. We can't
Could you say that, like, I've been in this position, just I didn't make the same conclusion. I didn't vote for McCain. I didn't vote for Romney. Why? Because I didn't think either one of them would be any different or better than Obama. Mm-hmm. If I did, I would have voted for them. You know? Yeah. So...
But also, I can't envision you saying this statement. I think you would have been indifferent.
Yeah, I'd have been
looking back,
indifferent.
I knew you. I mean, we were talking about it at the time. I wasn't on the show. You would have been indifferent to them winning.
Yeah.
Now, you wouldn't have, if they succeeded in ways that you liked, just like with Trump, you
I would have
said,
admitted I was
good
wrong.
job. But, like,
Yep.
I don't, right now,
It's
I don't get this at all.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks after the election, why are you writing this? Now, this is kind of where I was at in, February and March of this year, kind of.
Oh, I was undecided, sure.
Where I just didn't think I was thoroughly unconvinced that this entire process was actually serious. Or it's like, I knew Kamala was going to be bad. I wasn't thoroughly convinced, though, that Donald Trump was necessarily going to be the answer. And then they showed me, oh no, we're deathly serious about our intents for this country. We're deathly serious, literally deathly serious about our intents for this country. They showed us that on July 13th, and then again a couple of months or a few weeks later. And if he had not run a really disciplined campaign, especially after the DNC, if he had not survived assassination attempts, that the general overall sentiment, not the specifics necessarily, understandable, still a little incongruent, but understandable. On the other side of all of that, though, all those things did happen. I'm not sure how you can have that sentiment at this point.
I will just speak for myself because I have made some of the decisions that Andrew made in previous elections. Romney and McCain, their records, when Romney's record as governor of Massachusetts, is heinous. 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 I mean, he was already advocating and enacting much of the cultural rotgut that we are fighting today. And this was 20 years ago when he was governor there. Long before you ever heard the term bake the cake bigot, Romney shut down Catholic charities in Massachusetts because they wouldn't do gay adoptions. Romney is basically the father of gay marriage in America. I could do that show sometime and walk you through all that. So his record is heinous. John McCain's record outside of some national defense issues, but by the time he ran for president, I was already souring on Iraq and forever war by that time. Myself. His record on virtually everything else is awful. Just absolutely dreadful. I mean, McCain was running for president on not repealing Roe v. Wade. Number one. His campaign manager, Stephen Schmidt, openly talked about how they're going to, be promoters of gay marriage when he took over. Mm-hmm. And Stephen Schmidt went on to become a chief voice, anti-Trump voice at MSNBC. And then those guys went back to McCain went back to the Senate. Romney got elected to the Senate. They have been certifiably dreadful the entire time.
Yes.
John McCain left his deathbed to make sure Obamacare became law. The greatest promoter of abortion of all time. Any piece of more than any singular piece of legislation ever passed. And he left his deathbed. That was his last act as a senator, was to vote for that trash. So then Trump comes along, has no record. But I don't understand how he had a record before. And his record was actually overturning Roe. I just have not understood this the entire time. I don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. I would not have been relieved one way or the other if McCain or Romney had won. I wouldn't have cared. I wasn't necessarily relieved when Trump won in 2016. I thought it was funny watching them melt down, but I came in here the next day and said, never Trump is dead. Let's see what he does. First weekend he's president, he picks a fight over immigration. I'm like, okay, I'm in. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So I don't see that if I did see they were the same thing, I would have made the same choice, but I don't. I also think if you thought that this was a pro-life party before and it's not now, I don't know what to tell you. I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. So Mitt Romney, who was doing taxpayer-funded abortions via Romneycare 20 years before Donald Trump ever got elected president, and John McCain, who did not believe in overturning Roe v. Wade, they were the standard bearers before Trump. Trump overturns Roe v. Wade. I don't get it. I really don't. I really don't understand it. I'm not trying to be obtuse. I don't get it. I don't get. I voted for all these other Republicans, but the guy that overturned Roe is my line in the sand. Can you guys help me with that? I know we asked this during the election as well, but that part I've never been able to make the math work on that. I just haven't. It makes no sense to me.
All of it. This is consuming people in the weirdest ways. I mean, I saw online. I won't mention the name, but there's been a guy that has been in since the election and during the one of the Anon-cons, incredibly nasty to you. And then he's on Twitter himself, outing himself as proudly with you at the gun range. And like, it was really nice to be with you. Like, what? This is what I'm talking about. What is this?
I met that guy. I really did enjoy getting to know him.
I bet he was.
And he gave us a lot of credit for why he left Hinduism and became a Christian. So.
But what then?
Cool. I think that's a tremendous honor. So I'm thankful.
What are we doing? We're making all kinds of strange, I'm dying on this hill decisions about this. And I don't, yet, in all the places we show grace, in other areas, voting is it's certainly principled, but isn't it obviously pragmatic?
The answer to both is yes.
Yes, but it's also obviously, it's not, we don't believe, especially as Christians who are engaged in the biggest civil war fight over this, we don't believe that's, regardless of what our church theology is on sacraments, we certainly don't believe our vote is sacramental, right?
I think my vote is sacred. I don't think it's sacramental. I agree.
I beg everybody within the sound of my voice, do your best. Try to filter. If you are in the category, or you think you're in the category of the emailer that Steve just read, or what Todd was just talking about, try your best to analyze things and think about things. Hey, what is the reality of the situation? Not what I think it should be, not what I want it to be. What is reality right now when it comes to politics, especially on the right? What is reality? I just think there are too many people still yet who are analyzing things and looking at things the way they want them to be. And it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
It really is.
Now, I'll say this. We are in a negative world, and these conversations are going to be had more often moving forward. Mm-hmm. And we're all going to make moral calculations here about whether the level of existential threat we have on a broader slate of issues beyond abortion is worthy of swallowing our pride and crow on this issue, or whether the principle of the issue of this one is the genesis of all the other issues, and therefore we have to draw our line in the sand. And I'm okay with whatever position you take on that, provided it's well reasoned, and I'll respect it. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, powered by our friends over at PREBORN. If you're looking to make that end of the year donation, few causes more worthy than our friends at PREBORN. They have saved hundreds of thousands of babies over the years. Since they started partnering with us here on The Blaze, you've helped them to save tens of thousands. So let's keep that going. Everything they do is free, whether that's confronting the mom considering the murder of her child with that ultrasound so she hears that heartbeat to convict her conscience. And then if she chooses life, all the prenatal and postnatal care she needs, that's all free too. Even though none of this stuff is actually free, but it's free because of your generosity. So it's free to the mom and her baby. And if you want to keep making this ministry shine, just go to preborn.com/Steve. That's preborn.com/Steve. For as little as $28, you could fund an ultrasound that may save a life as soon as today. All right, preborn.com/Steve. That's preborn.com/Steve is where you want to go, or dial pound 250, say the keyword baby on your mobile phone, or go to preborn.com/Steve. Did you guys see that the View had to read another legal disclaimer? This is like their
today?
their third one this week.
Yeah, I know there was at least two. Is this another one?
This is the third one. The third one. Three of them they had to read this week. Now they had to read one about Pete Hegseth as well. Yes.
Why are they worth it?
Wow.
Like, how many people actually watch that show? When liberals are known
2.3 million is the number of viewers that it has, that according to what I just looked up.
What does that number strike you as relative? I mean, you're usually good at putting those into context. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Probably for that day part, that's probably very good. But 2.3 million, just to put that in perspective, if that was a Fox News primetime show, it would probably be Fox's fourth or fifth most viewed show.
The entire show strikes me as the exact same construct, but from the reverse, as your theory, long-held theory on Fred Phelps.
Oh, like a show we had to create to parody liberal white women?
What? Why does that show even exist?
I don't know. I think its primary function is to provide us content to clickbait.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
And believe me, it's a treasure trove. It's an endless stream, yes, of chocolatey goodness. Yes. Okay. All right, let's get back here. Brian in Hampton, Virginia wants to know on a Feedback Friday, hey, I wanted advice on when people come back on you and say that you're judging them and the Bible says not to judge others. Is that completely accurate? How do you get around that? Because if we don't point out truth or let someone know this is not how they should be doing or behaving, how else are they supposed to know? I know they're using that saying as a defense mechanism, but what's the best way you can think of to get around it? Well, Brian, I would first start by asking, how would they know that you're judging them unless they are judging you? How would they know? And how would they know even what a judgment is unless they themselves are making a judgment? How would they know?
That's the exact right philosophical answer. But even before that, let me go sola scriptura on you. Just keep reading the scripture immediately after what it says after.
For by the same standard you judge others, so will you also be judged. It's a message that's about hypocrisy, religiosity replacing orthodoxy within the faith. Okay, that's what that entire message and sermon is about. Yes.
See, this is how the church. What an utter failure the church, broadly speaking, has been. How most of its own people have been duped into believing that it is a fundamental Christian principle to not judge.
When there is, by the way, an entire book of the Bible called
died on the cross.
Judges, yes.
Because of your dirty, nasty sins. And that same Savior in several parts of the Bible actually itemized what the worst of those sins are. But somehow we've convinced ourselves in the name of the Lord never to judge. It's a pox on our house. How did we get so stupid?
So here is that entire section in context. Let me just read it to you. Okay, in the ESV. Christ says, "Judge not, that you be not judged, for with the judgment you pronounced, you will be judged." This is a repeat of the laws of sowing and reaping. Do not be deceived. God will not be mocked. A man will always reap what he sows. Okay? The Bible just has the same handful of principles, iron laws of the universe, just readdressed and redeployed to different issues and at different times. But it's the same bedrock. It's the same bedrock foundational teachings over and over again. I mean, after all, when God introduces himself to his first covenant people, the Israelites, he does it with 10 commandments, just 10 of them. All right. But anyway, Jesus says, with the same judgment you pronounce, you will also be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. What does that mean? It means this. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own? That's exactly what I just did. Right? When I suggested you should go back to the people and say, how would you know I'm judging you unless you're judging me? I just gave you exactly what Christ said here. Why are you calling out so if I'm judgmental, you're calling me out for the speck of dust in my eye. You've got a giant judgmental beam in your own. You're judging me as judgy. You're a hypocrite. You're not even upholding your own standard. Everything is relative. That can't even be true. Because that in and of itself is a statement of absolute. You're not even upholding your own standard. You're the hypocrite here. All right? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when there is still a log in my own? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Do not give to dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you. You know what that means? Don't waste your faith, don't waste your ethics, don't waste your birthright on things of this world and even people at times that are just unworthy of it.
The Lord himself.
Does that sound like it's in the context of how many of you have heard Matthew 7 applied by the those who do not love our Lord? No. Because they speak with the forked tongue of their father.
Brood of vipers, whitewashed tombs.
Correct.
Pretty judgy.
Yep.
And by the way, the parenthetical title, and it's explicitly in Galatians where he says stupid Galatians, but pick any one of Paul's epistles and the subtitle is basically, hey, jackasses.
Stupid Colossians, stupid Thessalonians.
Yes.
Stupid Corinthians. It's pretty much a subheading in like all of Paul's letters at some point. Yes. All right. Where do we want to go? I hope that helps. But, a lot of these kinds of arguments are not in good faith. They're meant to be deflections. Now, I'm assuming, Brian, in Hampton, Virginia, okay, I'm assuming that you are not telling people the welfare state is bad and you don't get to tithe with other people's money. That's called stealing, all right, while you are ransacking their homes and walking out with their stuff, right? I'm assuming that's not the case, okay? Because unless you're doing that, in that case, they got you. Now, you're guilty of what Christ just mentioned. But in most 99% of the cases, when you're told this, it's a deflection taken out of context to justify not being held to any standard whatsoever. Let's go next to Scott Lowe. He says, all right, I'll be curious to get you guys' reaction to this. And I've got some of my Reformed friends who agree with me on this, which I find fascinating because they're the total depravity people. All right. No term limits for members of Congress. Term limits should remain vested in voters and voters alone. Limiting terms will keep a revolving door of legislators coming in and going out while the deep state political operatives remain ensconced in their power structure. No term limits in all caps. So what do you think of this? I know people who are serious culture warriors. They agree with Scott Lowe on this. What do you think?
I think that's a reasonable, more than reasonable argument that you think the deep state is bad. Now, in theory, I think so. Now, you go to the other side, the deep state's just as bad as it is now because a lot of people have decided they can be bought off and stay there and parked forever. So I honestly think we are, until we get a better caliber of human being, we're screwed either way, which is why I was never against early on. I've been more like I could take it either way because I just think the fall of man is such that I'll try something else. But the reason I was against term limits like you early on is because I said, how about we just raise the bar for what we expect out of one another as citizens and statesmen? That's the best answer. I've just become even more bitter and calloused.
Your elected representatives are not aberrations of you. They are reflections of the people. So it doesn't matter whether that reflection comes every 4 years, every 6 years, or every 600 years in the case of Nancy Pelosi. You're getting a reflection of yourself. Whomever you send to Washington.
Great answer.
Yeah. That being said, I'm 100% for term limits. And it's precisely because there is a permanent bureaucratic state. It's precisely because of that.
So
who gets more principled the longer they're in office? Give me a name.
No, I'm not.
You won't be able to do it.
But what about his argument in a vacuum that the opposite, that state will almost certainly be there as well? Because even if you end up having good people, they have to leave, and there's not good people in theory long enough. God knows I agree with you on everything the state is now, but his argument does have. It's one of the. Honestly, I've never heard a better argument, a aspirational argument. Most of it is just like these people suck. get them out of there.
That's the difference. Is I think we're beyond aspirational arguments.
Fair. I like that.
I do.
Only a true friend would be that truly honest.
Yes, I just think we're beyond that.
Yeah.
I mean, this strikes me as the kind of thing I would have said 10 years ago. Along with, remember, it ain't no fun when the rabbits got the gun. The power we will use later. Now will be used against us later. But we're beyond aspirational arguments. We're in wartime now, and are we going to lose some good people? Sure, but we don't have that many good people.
Yeah. John Fetterman is number 12 on our power ranking,
and so therefore we're going to lose some good people, but we're going to lose a lot more what? Bad people.
I agree.
So is there a better chance, do you have a better chance of replacing Lisa Murkowski in Alaska if there's an open seat there or if you have to take on an entrenched incumbent in a primary? What's the better shot? And I could say the same thing about Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. I could say the same thing about John Cornyn in Texas. I could say the same thing about every single one of those Republicans everywhere around the country. The hardest thing to do is to take them out in primaries.
I agree. Now, because I thought there was enough merit, I wanted to flesh it out because I know you had good answers. And this has everything to do, in my estimation, I think you'd agree, with the fact stop saying it's morning in America, because it's not. If it was, i.e., citizenry is taken seriously again, and we're going to do our part, I think you would have sing a
completely
slightly different, right?
Completely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, this strikes me. This is my problem. This is a very libertarian argument. Leave it up to the people. Well, sometimes the people are retarded. And the people are bad. And all the people are always sinners. All right, the founders hated democracy. They viewed it as mob rule, and they did not like the term at all. And that's why they didn't create one. They created a representative republic instead. So ultimately, the philosophies are not, aspirational philosophies do not acknowledge the reality of the human condition. We cannot possibly go to Ron Paul's libertarian worldview. We're not capable of it. If we were, we wouldn't be in the positions we're in right now. It's not that going to libertarian policies will make the people better. It's that better people want more libertarian policies. You see what I'm saying?
Of course.
It's the other way, or it's the other way around. And some of you will point to Malou and Arj. We'll see. He's done a great job cutting regulations, that's for sure. We'll see if he gets reelected. We'll see what he does about the actual culture. You can cut all the regulations you want. If the culture's rotten, it doesn't matter. You know why the haters much more go after the guy in El Salvador than Malou in Argentina? And I can't remember the guy in El Salvador's name. What's his name? Do you guys remember?
I don't off the top. I know who you're talking about.
But you know why? Because he's more of the culture warrior. He's like rounding up criminals, putting them in prison, cleaning up streets, kicking trash and gay porn out of the schools. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's full Central American Viktor Orban is what that guy has done. So, is Malou an upgrade over what they had? Absolutely.
Nayib Bukele.
Thank you. But eventually, you can cut all the regulations you want until you attack the rot gut in the culture. What'll just happen is the next election when they vote you out, all those regulations and more will come back. You cannot. Libertarianism is not a solution. It's a result. You become a more libertarian people when you are actually a more moral and religious people, and you're like, I don't need you to be the boss of me. I'm good.
So at the end of the day, we're having a people are the problem conversation.
Always, yes. The people are always the problem. That's what government by the consent of the governed means. And my own way of rewording that is you always get as much tyranny and corruption as you're willing to tolerate. That's another way of just saying government by the consent of the governed. If you consent to tyranny, you'll get more tyranny. Do governments ever voluntarily stop tyranny? They ever do that voluntarily? Just say, I think we reached our tyranny salary cap and we don't want to go over, so we're good here. That never happens. They have to be made to stop. So I think Malou in Argentina is great with a quip. He's doing great work in terms of deregulating, but eventually you got to take on the actual rot gut culture that created all those regulations in the first place. We're people with souls. We're not processes. We're not economic processes. We're not algorithms. All right? We're human beings made in the likeness and image of God. You cannot ignore that. And doing so, whether you're doing it from the right or the left, you'll do at your own peril. That's a fundamental fact of history. And that's why libertarianism is 100% right 80% of the time. And then the other 20% you're like, what? I love Rand Paul to death. He's dead wrong about Trump not using the military to get rid of the soldiers or get rid of the illegals. Well, they'll bring the soldiers out to come after. They were going to do that anyway, regardless of what we did. Again, Rand, you got assaulted by your neighbor. okay, while plucking berries or mowing your lawn or something, your neighbor walked into the yard of a U.S. senator and beat him up. And you're concerned about the precedent of we'll weaponize the other side's views, brother. You got assaulted, okay? So when I love Rand to death, but you're just wrong. But we can't rise above our own worldview. We can't, And ultimately, if you do not accept what the owner's manual to the universe says about the nature of man and the nature of God, why the world is the way that it is, why we are the way that we are, and then what ultimately is the only solution to it. You can be really smart, you can be moral, you can be a great person of great and brave deeds, but eventually you're going to step on rakes. And you're going to be a guy who got assaulted by his neighbor for his views, who now suddenly is concerned about, non-aggression pacts. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, well, and this is absolutely related to the question we just had about not lest ye be judged and how stupid we've got. Because look at a guy like Rand, as principled, willing to go the other way, but on this, I agree, he's just in the dark. It is one thing to understand where to question where is the line where we use that military force. That's understandable. That when does that kick in?
If it's not to get rid of an invading army, then tell me when it is.
But it's not a question that at some point that line is there, and you must use the necessary tools.
I completely agree.
And he seems to doubt that completely.
Yep.
And again, it's all the more baffling from a guy who's willing to go the other way and has been beaten in his own yard by a neighbor.
Yeah. But again, we can't rise above our own worldview. We can't. If you start that human nature is basically good and you just give basically good people liberty, they'll be better people. You've already lost the argument when these kinds of matters come up. Everybody have a great weekend. Hope to see you again on Monday. Until then, Romans 8:28.